Before we get into it, if you enjoyed these videos, please hit the like and subscribe button, and keep in mind that these are my own thoughts, opinions, and ideas. These are not meant to be, nor should you take them as, investment or trading advice in any way, shape, or form. Do your own due diligence, put in the work for yourself, and make your decisions based on that. All right, folks, here we are on Monday, April 7th. We're going to take a look at the overall market today, focusing on SPY, QQQ, Apple, Tesla, and NVDA. We'll spend most of our time on SPY and QQQ, but we'll check in on the others before the video is through. Crazy day in the market, as I'm sure you know. I was streaming live this morning for the first 45 minutes or so of open, and at that time we were looking at just this bleed down, right? We're looking at this new low here. At this point, I thought, and I still think this would have probably been true, that we would have limited down. It hit a level 1 circuit breaker at -7%. Had this fake news, essentially. I caught myself from just instinctually saying that, but this post went out on X and basically said that the White House was rumored to be eyeing a 90-day pause on the tariffs to discuss, which I believe is what Bill Ackman had suggested or pleaded be done in his post on X. And then the White House came out and said, no, that's not true. So it then peeled back a bunch, but then it largely stabilized the market, oddly enough, for today at least. And so you just ended up with this wildly chaotic day. I do honestly think that post, erroneous though it was, prevented a level 1 circuit breaker. So take that for what you will. But so it leaves us with a bit of stuff to unpack. For one, I talk all the time about this 183 EMA, and I focus on the 10-minute time frame on the intraday. And intraday, we see it came right up, and here it tried to push through. I mean, this candle alone was a plus 4% candle just in the span of 10 minutes on SPY. And then it came down a little over 3% the following 10 minutes when it was reported, no, that's not true. But where did that action take place? It took place right at the 183 juncture. Came down, found support on the short-term EMAs, made a late day push toward the 183, didn't make it, came back for support on the short terms, found that support, at least for now, is holding that support, but still not able to get any motion through the 183 EMA. So my take on this for the time being is, in a very peculiar series of events that I just described, the market got somehow sort of magically stabilized for today. Does that have any lasting impact? I don't see why it possibly would, because if you strip away the erroneous post, right, or the post that was then refuted, nothing else has really changed of significance. And so there's that. So my gut feeling is that the motion being shown here, the inability intraday to push through the 183 and hold it, yet continuing to rise back toward it, just sort of says, okay, on a really flimsy catalyst, if you want to call it that, we're not going to get like lengthy reprieve from that or turnaround from that. Does it persist into tomorrow? Shoot, maybe even Wednesday-ish, maybe. But I would be surprised. The other thing that it tells me, so here's the other end of the coin. The other thing that it tells me is that folks are just really ready for a face-ripping rally. It is just so obvious that there is such a fevered pitch around where's the bottom, right? Everyone's clamoring around where's the bottom, just focused incessantly on I want to catch the bottom and build my generational wealth off of finding this one-time bottom. And this is exemplary of that, right? This happens because people are just at a fevered pitch wanting to catch the bottom. And so the buying ability is there, right? And the ability, I mean, honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if there was some positive resolution to this, which is questionable, but if there was, I wouldn't be surprised if we found something near or at a 2-digit plus day on SPY, like, or especially QQQ, right? Like a plus 10%, plus 12%, plus 8%, something like that. Or relative series of days, right, where it's that high, which just obviously you don't see it. And again, I don't know that there will be a positive, to the market at least, a positive resolution to this. I don't see strong signs of that at the moment, but we will see, obviously. But yeah, this told me those two things. One, if this is the only catalyst, in air quotes, this post that was then immediately refuted, I don't see that carrying much weight. Maybe we get another day and a half out of it, but I would be surprised. And on top of that, the other takeaway for me is folks are beyond eager. Eager is not strong enough word. They are rabid, foaming at the mouth, rabid to buy this dip. But they don't want to get bagged, and so they are looking to hop on any catalyst and try to be the first in the door, right? That they caught the sheer bottom. So when it does happen, yeah, probably face ripping. But how we get there, I don't know. Time will tell. Now, okay, so we looked at the intraday there. I'm actually not super focused on the daily at the moment, which would be my go-to. The weekly is much more interesting on SPY and QQQ at the moment because it's getting mighty close to this 183 EMA. The 183 EMA on SPY right now is about 470. It's not that far away. If you look at, a day like this day where it dropped minus 50, right? So if we came down $50 from where we are now, now obviously that would be a higher percentage at the moment, but just say we did, that would bring us through the 183, right? So if we have another big, strong down day, we're going to encounter that 183 at 470 on SPY. Now, these EMAs are dynamic. They move every time a candle gets put in, so just keep that in mind. So it may not be here when it gets there. But that's why, to me, the weekly is much, much more interesting, because when has SPY, the Ohio State University, slipped through the 183 in the past? Well, it was back here in 2020. I'm sure you all remember that. It touched it here in 2018, so a couple of times in Trump's last term, right? It had come to it here in 2022. I know that's been brought up a bit, this pullback in 2022. And so we're getting mighty close to that range. Now, the big difference in 2022 and even in 2018 was that there wasn't additional imposed chaos that was occurring globally. And there weren't additional factors of erratic behavior and perceived chaos in the market. Right? Perceptions of chaos and erratic behavior are anathema to bulls. And so, this period being void of that it may sound like it's a minor thing. It's a truly significant thing. So if we were to have this type of thing happen and have just chaos, unclear activity or actions from global leaders, I think you have a different outcome than this. Okay? And so that's what we're looking at right now. That's why it's important to, I think, above all, watch the news cycle. But it is interesting to know where you are on the chart, so that as the news cycle unfolds, you know where you are in the chart. Because if there is a positive resolution to this, and this is at or a bit below the 183, yeah, you might have that tremendous dip buying opportunity that would have been at 336, that this would have been at 203, that, I don't know, this maybe would have been at 215. But I mean, prior to that, right, you have to go all the way back to 2011, Obama. And
And, that was this big downturn from the 2008 financial crisis brought this all the way down into the low 50s. But yeah, then look what happened. Absolute face ripper, right? And it's different for it to slip down here in 2011 after having gone through this huge push, right? This huge recovery and push, and it battling here with the 183 and punching above and coming down to reconfirm support, right? Reconfirming support on that is much, 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 much different than it coming down from way up here and free falling. And even this motion is, let me hide these because these make it really hard to see. This motion is much, much, much different than this sort of stair step quality. This is elevator. This is escalator. Okay, so those are my 2 cents. Weekly is the most interesting at the moment. Primary driver, news catalysts, and sort of general sentiment around global macro leadership, if you will. But the confluence of events is here. The chart plus, the missing factor is there a positive resolution here to be had? That's the question. QQQ looks like this, even closer. QQQ came down today at its low point of 402.39, and the 183 is at 395. Right, it was about $7 away from testing that 183. So again, we have a lot of opportunity here. If the factors come together in a positive way, things could look quite nice if we look back on this in 2 years, 5 years, whatever. But there's a big, big, big series of wild cards out there. It's not just one wild card. It's like 100 and something wild cards. So, and dominant in those is probably about a dozen or so, really, really dominant wild cards. Apple on the weekly already in wrestling mode with the 183. And obviously they are poised to be, seeming to be at the moment at least, hit really hard by what's going on for obvious reasons. Really strong top wick there. Now does this, no, never mind. It doesn't look like it. I'm not even going to mention it. Tesla also wrestling already with the 183. So you have 2 giants in SPY and QQQ, in the overall market, I should say, that are already at or wrestling with or struggling to hold that 183. You do see some strong hammery candles on Tesla here. Then you see a very clear shooting star, right? This is much more shooting star than this even, for sure. And so we'll see what that brings, but not to belabor it, but it is wrestling with that 183. NVIDIA still approaching, just because it's had such a crazy growth trajectory since that pullback in 2022 that we were looking at. Its trajectory just looks different, right? It's just much more straight up than anything else. And so it had much more distance from that 183, right? This is more escalatory and this is more elevatory. And this is, I don't know, Chop City a bit. But yeah, that's where we are. My default at the moment, check out the weekly, focus on the 183, see what happens there, dominate your attention to the news cycle. I do think that given the right catalyst or series of catalysts that are perceived, again, it doesn't have to be perceived by Republicans or Democrats or France or Vietnam or China as good. If the market thinks that it's good news, if it has positive sentiment around it, whatever that resolution or those resolutions are, it has every want to face rip and just rally its ass off. So does it get there? We will see. But those are my 2 cents at the moment. And I should have said this 14 minutes ago, but if you have any tickers you'd like me to look at, please drop them in the comments below, because in periods like this, I don't really know what to cover other than the overall market, because there's very few things that are moving with significance on their own. All right. predominantly they are reactive to the macro factors, the news catalysts that are causing those macro factors, and that sort of thing. All right, folks, so I hope that your trading week is off to a good start. And as always, I appreciate you watching, and I will see you in the next video.